Okay, well, I think we should kick it off, Kim. I just want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Piper Light. I am the outreach manager here at Higher Education Services Corporation. I'm so excited that we've been able to partner together on this wonderful presentation, and I want to hand it off to you to introduce yourself.
And I already we have a question. Natasha, do you want to post your question in the chat if you had a quick question, or or you can come off the okay. Well, while Natasha's doing that, I'm gonna just put our deck up so we have that. So tonight I am um talking about this idea of college affordability, mainly for the families who are juniors, sophomores, are beginning to about the college list, right? So we're going to be looking at smart strategies for creating a college list that for every college you get accepted to, hopefully you will be able to be able to afford it. You won't be blindsided and get a list of a lot of colleges that you won't be able to afford. That's the goal of tonight. Um, so as I just said, I encourage questions and you post them in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat. Who am I? My name is Kim Nauer. I work at the New School in New York City, which is home of to the Parsons School of Design, and we are a big art and urban policy school. And for the last 10 years, I've done a lot of work in higher education. I'm a big time higher education expert in New York City. And mostly what I've been doing recently is working to create tools and information that is for families, for students, for counselors. My sort of big work is managing a website called Understanding FAFSA, and it explains all the basic things that you need, not only to get through the FAFSA financial aid process, but also to get through the get all the way into college. So it's not just about FAFSA; it's about everything else you need to understand. And folks in New York City may be familiar with me or with our work because we work with the New York City Department of Education on a guide called Understanding FAFSA and Financial Aid. And you can go to my website, download the guide. It has basically everything you need to think about from soup to nuts, from the moment that you're beginning to like consider college all the way to the day you enroll. So it's a very short, fun guide. If you can believe financial aid can be fun, and it'll get you where you need to go, and you'll understand everything. Okay, so here's what we're going to talk about tonight. Um, First, I'm going to sort of try to bring everyone up to speed on this idea of college pricing, some of the terms you need to know, how it works. Um, and then we're going to get a little bit into this understanding the market and the college pricing business. This is something that a lot of families don't understand. It's kind of a behind the cloak type of thing. And the more you understand about how colleges price themselves and offer you the price that you're going to end up getting, the more you will be able to be a savvy consumer about this. And then we'll get into some strategies for building your list. First of all, what kind of colleges should you be thinking about? Public colleges, private colleges, international colleges, all kinds of different types of colleges with different price points. And then we'll get into some other ways that you might be able to keep your costs under control. Special programs, looking for colleges that'll accept high school credits that you may have earned, and then some cost cutters. And then I'll offer some instructions on how to create an affordable college dream list. And then we'll be talking about some of the ways that you can sort of begin tonight, if you want to, in terms of understanding what your college prices might look like for the various colleges that you're interested in. So college pricing 101. First, let's talk about how much aid there really is out there. This is a big misconception in part amongst the public in general. They sort of see the prices that are on college websites and think that colleges are completely impossible to access because the costs are so much, right? And we actually just saw a study that came out last week that like 77% of the US population thinks college is completely unaffordable. That's not so true. We can certainly see where that perception comes from, but there is a lot of financial aid, what we call free money out there from various sources. We have federal need-based aid. There is our sponsors here. There's a New York State aid through the HESC Corporation. They have TAP, DREAM Act, Excelsior scholarships. There's This is where the big bucks are. College grants. There's private scholarships out there. And then in addition, there's federal programs that allow you to finance college if you need to. There's federal work study that'll help students if they want to get jobs on campus. There's the direct loan program, which is low cost loans, Parent Plus loans, which usually are a little bit better than the normal market in terms of loans. And then, of course, there's private loans as well. So that gives you a sense of like the various ways you might finance college. And this is important to see here. This pie chart is when you're looking at how the typical American pays for college, it's not, we all think, oh, everybody's just taking out very expensive loans. You see here that actually is not the truth. Only the loans in this pie chart are only 25% of the way people are paying for college. All the rest is through free money. Federal Pell Grants for need-based aid. Colleges are making, and I'll tell you sort of how all that works. Colleges will give you discounts, as we say, private scholarships, state aid, and various other benefits. So just keep that in mind, that when you're taking on the college hunt, that loans are a tool and they're an important tool, but there's all kinds of other ways that are going to bring down the cost of college that you see on the college websites. So the first thing that we keep talking about, the cost of college, right? Well, what is that? There's a term that all the colleges use. It's a legal term. It's important. It's called cost of attendance, or the total cost of attendance. And every college is required to post their total cost, an estimate of their total cost of attendance on their website, so you can get a sense of what that would be. And what is the total cost of attendance? And so once again, I'm giving you a couple more pieces of jargon, and you're going to end up seeing these words through your hunt, and then ultimately in your letter when you start to get your offers, as we say. So you have your total cost of attendance to go to a given school. That's gonna be the addition of two things: direct costs and indirect costs. So there's two more pieces of jargon there for you. The direct cost, what is this? It is all of the money that you might need to pay or will need to pay directly to your school. That's the way I always just remember that I'm paying. And so that's the things like tuition. If you or your student is gonna do a college dorm, then it would be room and board. There's a lot of fees. So there's things that costs that you'll be paying directly to your school. That's your direct cost. And then indirect costs are something that students and families have a lot more control over. Those are choices that you're making in order to have get through college. It includes obvious things that you might be thinking about, which is your computer, your books, but it also includes things like transportation, meals that aren't associated with a meal plan, entertainment. Like, how much are you going to be spending for that year? That's indirect costs. And colleges do try in a roundabout way to estimate that for families as well. But those are numbers that the families, you should be thinking about creating your own budget. What is the indirect cost going to be? And you can always save money on your indirect costs. So as I just mentioned, colleges are required to post their cost of attendance on each of their websites, right? So they're there somewhere. And there's aggregators and people that are sort of putting them all together in one place for you if you want to compare easily. So the good news is that whatever price you see for the colleges that you're interested in at this moment on their website, I'm going to go out on a limb here. You probably will not need to pay all of that. This is like the secret about college is they're putting out a price, and then the colleges themselves bring down that price in a way that they think it's possible that you might be able to afford to go to their school, right? So very few families pay this published, just like a car lot, sticker price. Instead, they're going to pay, and here's another term that you're going to need to know, a net price. And colleges craft that price, if they accept you, they craft that price based on what your family finances look like. And so you and your neighbor applying to the exact same college might get totally different offers in terms of how much how much the college is going to ask you to pay. So I know it's not intuitive, but it's really, really important to understand that they have this differential pricing structure, person to person to person to person. And so, but I guess the good news is that most colleges offer some kind of financial help to families that need it. And my piece of advice here tonight is that you as a student, you as a parent should find out what that net price is before you apply to the college. And there's ways to do that. One thing that you don't want to do is fall in love with a college and then realize that you can't afford it. And so there's many families that have sort of created a list that was the dream list of the students, the kids, and then realized that they didn't get any kind of aid making it affordable for them. So it will depend on how much aid you get. It depends on a lot of factors. So please try to find out your net price before applying to the college and see if it might fit into your budget. So here's a few affordable list building strategies, sort of going from big picture to like down a little bit. The big picture, understand the market. This is another counterintuitive thing, but it's important to see this. It's not what we think it is. In America, we are obsessed with, in the news, with following these high-priced, super prestigious, super selective colleges. Obviously, Harvard is in the news every single day these days. This is a minuscule number of kids in America go to colleges like that. This is more what America does, and you all are in this position. So 76% of Americans go to a public institution, right? And so already we're all in good company. And you can see like that big pink there. And then you have another 18% are going to the privates, as we call them. And there's all kinds of nice privates out there. That vary, varying types of, and then this is kind of what you think about, like the college in the woods, like all these small little things. Really, I happen to work at a private college, the New School, and they are wonderful colleges. They tend to be very like one thing, like they're special in some way, right? But then there's also all kinds of other interesting private colleges that you should certainly consider putting on your list. And then there's the for-profits, and then they are another 7%. But just see that the publics are really where the action is in terms of the great majority of students in America. And then the other thing that, like, you read the press and you get all freaked out that it's impossible to get into college. Again, not true. So almost half of Americans attend schools that have open admissions. So that's like many of the CUNYs are that way. And so the colleges are there to serve. They want to accept you and to educate you. It's not like, oh, we're gonna, be picky about whether you come or not. They are there as to be helpful. Then there's another huge percentage of colleges that are not selective. They're actively looking for folks to apply to them, and then you get accepted and go. And then this is more the ones that we all think about when we see in the press is your 14% are these selective colleges, and then the highly selectives and the most selective. So you do have a chunk, about a quarter of them that are in that that realm, right? But just know that there's plenty of open admissions and non-selectives out there. So what does that mean? It means that consumers have power. It means that students and families have choices. So as you're going into this, when you're creating your list, be thinking about, oh, I want a nice mix of schools that are both a perfect, a really good fit for our family, but also a good fit in terms of the finances of our family. You want to think about both, right? And it is completely doable, given the fact that there is so much to choose from out there, and a lot of these colleges are not killer expensive. So what I advise families to do is to get to know the college pricing business to some degree. And there was if you download the deck, there was a piece in the New York Times about 3 or 4 weeks ago that really explained how this works. Now, once again, we're talking these particular colleges that they talk about in the Times piece are a little bit more your selective colleges and your privates. And they are all sort of vying for the dollar, and they compete actively against each other using financial aid. And so and they have all kinds of analytics that can predict, if you're interested in that college, how much your family may be willing to pay to send the student. And so if some of these more what do I say, like the NYU's, the Northeasterns, the Boston colleges, these like the schools that kids get at Tulane and like all the Southern colleges, the kids get very excited about. Just know that when you apply, we are all competing possibly with each other to for you to come if you are a student that they want. So, to elevate this a little bit, um, I really say is that financial aid exists really to make college more affordable to all of those who want to go. So the colleges would argue some people can pay more, some people can pay less. It's important that we offer our college aid, offer our discounts so that the most number of people can afford to go to our college, right? So they would argue that it's a bit of about fairness, right? Financial fairness. But admission officers also use financial aid to shape their classes. The money that they offer, they want a certain sets of kids. It could be all kinds of different types of kids, but they have a list of different types of kids that they might want in a given year. And so they're going to use money to make the college a little bit more attractive to those families if it's a student that they want to accept and recruit. Just think about it as recruitment. And then as far as when we're talking those less selective, particularly we're talking about the privates, but a lot of the out-of-state publics do this as well. They use financial aid to fill their seats. And so they're gonna offer some kind of enticement in that acceptance letter that says, congratulations, we've accepted you. We really want you to come to our school. Here is a $5,000 presidential award because you are so special. Here's $10,000 chancellor's award because you are so special. And they are using that financial aid to make you feel good about the offer and say, wow, I really do want to go to that college. And you see how powerful that is? And it's in the same way that in a car lot, they may offer you discounts so that you buy the car right then and there. It is a classic American technique, right? So with all of that, it's just important to be a smart consumer and just know what's going on there. And so that brings us to yet another term that you may or may not be familiar with at this point, this idea called merit aid, right? So merit aid and institutional scholarships are offered to various students at various different price points, based on the grades. I mean, this is a lot about how attractive the student is to the college, right? Based on grades, based on talent, based on the mix of students that they're seeking, right? It could be certain musical folks, certain folks in the community. Every year that mix may change, believe it or not. And it's a recruitment tool. So all you really need to think about with Merit Aid is, first of all, making your best pitch possible in your application, right? You want to be very somebody that they want to accept and actually make pay for. But bigger thing is that there really are three different levels to think about. So the private colleges may offer these big discounts because they already are coming in at this high price point, right? And they need to offer a big $30,000 chancellor's package or something to bring their price point down to something that you could afford. And even that's going to be a lot of money, but they'll use it, college discounting. And then an interesting group, important group, is your out of state colleges. Many students want to go to a public college, but they don't want to go to necessarily public college in their state. And so those colleges may wheel and deal with their merit aid as well. Once again, depending on your student and how attractive it is to the college. And then the last thing to understand is our beloved SUNYs and CUNYs. They're already relatively inexpensive for parents and kids. So it's not that they're going to necessarily offer a huge amount of merit aid. We still will see needs-based aid. So if you're low income or working class, there's opportunities to look for those kinds of aid that is based on financial need. But the SUNYs and CUNYs don't tend to offer this idea of merit aid, which is just bringing the cost down for the sake of bringing it down, right? So you have those three different levels, and they come in at three different price points. So this is a little known fact, but your average, this is an average, a national average. Private colleges, and they do this survey every year of all the privates, on average, reduce their cost to families by more than a half. But so you might see, if I was applying to a college that had a cost of attendance, believe it or not, this might be my own, $100,000 a year, then they would bring it and you would see more of an offer in the 50,000 or 40,000 range, whatever they're capable of. And so just know that these discounts can be super substantial, and to not say, oh, I'm not going to apply to any privates because they're way too expensive. There is this sticker price, net price thing going on, and if your student is a really great fit for that college, you may see quite a nice offer, depending on obviously your own family's finances. Okay, so that's sort of the big picture to think about. And so my son's heading off to college this year himself, so I just went through this. The place to start as you're beginning to think about the college list is start with your school types, right? What kind of schools are we going to apply to? And it's always nice to have a mix. That's always, if possible. And here's your New York State public colleges. And they put this was on SUNY's site, I believe, and the links are here if you want them. They put this super handy comparison of what college pricing looks like in various New York colleges, right? And the nice thing about New York is if you apply here, you're eligible possibly for TAP, which it would be delighted to help you apply for. So there's your private 4 years. On average, here in New York, those run about, $38,000 per year. Then you have your public 4 years for in-state students. So if you're your Stony Brooks, your Buffaloes, all your, Binghamton, or the big flagship campuses, but then there's many other smaller campuses and that are just totally wonderful. So you're already getting into an affordability just looking at their at their actual sticker prices, in range, right? It's $10,000 per year. And then if you happen to be applying from out of state, we charge more for out of state students, right? And then the 2 years, which is your CUNYs. Many of your CUNYs have 2-year programs. Those are very inexpensive. And if you are getting any kind of federal based aid, it's often free, right? Like, because you're getting your Pell Grant, your TAP, and then that pays not only for your direct cost, your tuition and whatnot, but it can help pay for your indirect costs, your books um, and your computers and stuff like that. So there is really, like, just if you stay in New York State, you have options, lots of them, right? And so that, just looking at that, that's like, base yourself on that and you can breathe easier. But then it's interesting to look at, like, what are the prices for all these out of state public colleges, and their averages all over the place. Typically, if you take a close look at this map, they're in the average cost for an out of state public, right? It ranges anywhere from, like, just state by state, and you see some, like, in the Upper West, like, they can be an average of the 13,000s, to more typical, your 33,000s, on the coast, 30, so just that's still less than the sticker price you're seeing for a lot of the privates, right? So these are their sticker prices. And then there's a lot of incredibly popular schools that are state schools that students are excited to go to and have the big rah-rah factor, or they have lots of opportunities. So you could say, well, maybe we can afford a state school in another state. It's possible. And then you got your privates, and I actually was a big, as much as, U.S. News World Report has its ranking system, which is controversial to some degree, but boy, is it a helpful website if you're trying to put together your college lists, because there's so much information there, right? And you can rank things and figure out things from a cost perspective, from a program perspective, from anything you want, right? So anyways, they did a nice piece on, like, the 10 most and least expensive colleges in America. And it is a huge range, right, out there of plenty of colleges that are in that 80 to 100,000 per year cost of attendance, to colleges that are in that 10,000. And then once again, we're talking about the privates here, right? Like, so we do always separate public colleges, private colleges, right? So these are the kinds of things that you can, if you play around on the US News site, you can sort of say, oh, I can see that. And then here's one that's a little known. This is actually a choice that my son decided to make, and a lot of artists know about this, is that international schools, if you have a traveler and a adventurer, are often cheaper, much cheaper than American schools. And so it's worth taking a look at, any kind of international school that you might appeal to your student. And you can look at the easiest way to think about that, if you have a student that's interested in this idea of all 4 years abroad, is that just take a look at, which international schools are on the Common App. And that makes it super easy. You could just click it and apply to them that way. And these are schools that very much want Americans attending if they put themselves on the Common App. So it's a little secret known, is that they're less than an out-of-state public. So they're like between a New York State public and all this. So that's a big savings to consider. So as far as all of this, and crucial for your aid offers, is that for the students who are doing this work, and for the counselors, and for the parents, in order to get a good aid offer, first of all, you have to want to get accepted. Like, that's job number one, right? But in order to get a good aid offer, you really have to make yourself very much very attractive to the school, right? And so what I've seen amongst a lot of the students that I work with is many of them are applying to 20 or 30 different colleges. And in the because everything feels really insecure, right? Um, no, that's not a good strategy. The colleges can tell when a student has clicked the box on the Common App and really has not done any work whatsoever to really delve into and decide that this is actually a school that they want to attend. And so colleges often will not, if they see that and they see the analytics on the other end, they can tell through the essays that students write that they just won't accept the students whatsoever. So it's much better to choose 7, 10 schools, 2 schools, 3 schools. Like really craft your list carefully and do everything you can in your power to make those schools know that you are really, really interested in them. And then what you're trying to do is find the sweet spot where you're applying, the student is applying, doing all the work, really making it clear that they have learned a lot about the college and they really are very, very interested in it. And then the college, if it is a really good fit, those admissions officers, believe it or not, really sweat these college applications and they look and they can tell which students really want to go to those schools, and they're more likely, first of all, to accept the a student, admit them, and then perhaps offer more aid because they think that this student is highly likely to come if they could just afford it, right? So just it pays to really do a lot of work on your list and not just click 20 boxes on the Common App. That's your one piece of advice there. And the links here that I'm talking could be helpful. This idea of demonstrated interest. Colleges have a way of seeing everything that you guys do on the internet. They can tell when you visited the websites. They obviously are keeping track of the conversations you're having, the visits you're having, and that means that you care, right? And so just sort of view this as like it's a tango. You and the colleges, you want to both really desire each other. You really both want to go to, and then that'll mean more aid and more acceptances. So that's your basic big picture list building strategy. And then the next thing to think about is, okay, are there some cool programs or whatnot that make this, that could make college affordable or free for me? So in New York State, and I think other states as well, we have opportunity programs, and they're definitely sort of reserved for low income students, upper working class, and students who are just on that edge who are like maybe a perfect fit for the school, but they need financial boost and they need academic boost to some degree. And so look for every school. If you think you might be interested in an opportunity program, just type that in the school's name and type in their opportunity program. Many schools participate and have opportunity programs. So look for that. And that could be money and support, academic support. And then there's for we call the high flyers, so you students who are really, terrific A+ students, and then also lower income, they apply for and compete for programs like QuestBridge, Posse scholarships, all kinds of other interesting programs where you're in that family. Like if you get accepted to this thing, first of all, you're going to get a really good financial aid package, if not a full-on free ride. But then you're also part of this larger support network, and so it's very special to get involved in one of these things. So look for those kinds of things. Ask your counselors what would be like. Are there some cool programs that I should try to apply to? What would be a good fit for me? And that often also depends on think about like, am I an artist? Am I a really great sports candidate for something? There's all kinds of things. What makes me special? What ways can I sort of find opportunities that way? And then there's once again, this is a little bit more for the high flyers. There's colleges that say for anybody that we accept, and then, these tend to be much more selective colleges, but anybody, they make a public promise for anybody that we accept, we will give a financial aid package that will that they can afford, that won't include any loans. So those are no loan packages. And we the colleges say, if you get accepted, we're going to make it worth your while, right? And then there's a little bit of a subset of that is colleges that meet full need. So you can sort of research, it's a little confusing, the terms, and honestly, each of the colleges have their own definitions of these terms that participate in these programs. But certainly looking up and getting the latest list of colleges that are no loan or meet full need, and just get that list and see if those are colleges that you might be interested in, and that you might be really well qualified for. Start there. Like, let's take a look at that list. And once again, lots of times privates, there's a few publics in there, and there's a link here. I go nice map. Like, they have a kind of map that has a nice updated map of all the different colleges that are no loan or meet full need. So there's all kinds of different strategies out there, though. It really depends on what makes you special, and are there programs that could kick a substantial amount of money to you, because they want to see you succeed in college. And so I just named a few of them here, but there's many others out there. And it's the counselors, the teachers, librarians, folks who really know these opportunities that can be helpful. So just know that and do your research and see what you can find. So then a next list building strategy that people often forget is colleges that accept the high school college the college credits that you might have earned in high school, right? And so think about how many different opportunities, particularly in New York City, but elsewhere too, of ways to earn college credit, and you're sort of banking them, right? And with the idea that you'd like to use them in the future. A lot of people, if you did a lot of high rigor courses in high school, there's a way to like cut off a whole year off of your college, which is a big time savings if you want to go that route. So your advanced placement classes, some schools offer inter IB. Those are for college credit. A lot of schools are more and more offering these dual enrollment classes. So they're in partnership with a college and then offers that class, offers that as a credit. Early college programs, CUNY College Now, this CLEP, ACE. So just think about what your own transcript looks like. Are there some college credits there that you're going to want to cash in? The key is that it's important to go to a school that will actually accept those credits. Many colleges won't. But a lot of your publics will. And then you can ask around to the privates, like, what is their policy about AP classes? What is their policy about early college programs? And just see how much you can get in terms of your high school work being turned into almost like college money, right? And then here's another big one that another huge trick, not that it's such a trick, but it's one that a lot of the American public is partaking of right now, is college cost cutting. Is consider staying at home. You'll save $20,000 to $25,000 a year. And 42% of college students are opting to live at home now. That's like half of America almost. And it's something that may or may not appeal to you. But if it does appeal to you and it makes sense, it's gonna make your undergraduate college very affordable, hopefully. And then that maybe allows you to spend more money on your grad work, So there's trade-offs in order to keep costs under control. And that's a big one that a lot of American students are using. So that's some basic big tips to think about, and there's lots there. So now that you know some of these sort of big picture items, how do you create a dream college list? Well, a lot of it is, first of all, the basic rules of the road that you see on anything that you're reading about how to create a good college list. The first, you do want to start with an idea that, well, what's a great fit for you in terms of the colleges itself, and this idea that you're going to want a mixed basket of colleges if possible. So as we've, you probably read and your counselors probably have taught, mentioned to you, you want, you want classes that you want a college that's going to have that has your major, that's in a location that you're comfortable with, that's a type of school that makes you excited to be there or comfortable to be there. Classes, class sizes, all of that varies so much college to college. And so you are going to want to start with, creating a big list that's based on your preferences, right? And then this idea of a good fit, right? You're once again, does the school have the major or your interests and clubs, things that you are going to really sort of elevate your thinking and your in your work? Does it match your grades and test scores? Are you actually going to be able to get in? Are there special programs or sports that you're interested in? Lots of colleges have fantastic sports programs. Maybe it's something that you want that little extra bit, or a lot of music programs to be aware of. And then once again, your budget is there. And I always say stay open to local colleges, public colleges, private colleges, get the whole mix and just stay open to them. And once again, what are you looking for? And then with the then we're the final thing, but really important to have it equal to the other two in terms of your of things that you're considering is the total, what can you afford? So you'll look at a number of things. You'll look at the total cost of attendance, tuition and fees, books and personal costs, housing, living at home, travel, commuting. What can you afford? And it's best to do these calculations before you do it. And I'm going to show you at towards the end how you can do those calculations pretty quickly and easily. And then some of these list building sites, they can, if they know your estimated income and your grades, they can do those calculations for you as well. So there's lots of sites that can sort of do a quick and dirty net price for you. But think of when you are thinking about all of like whether a college might be affordable for you, it's important to look at all these different things, not just one or two of them, not just the tuition. Look at what the actual cost of living there would be. And I always say, think of safety, fit, and reach. This is a term that counselors use a lot for academics: a safety school, a fit school, a reach school. If you can think about that in terms of your own budget, that's good too. But you definitely want the majority of the schools, after using the net price calculator, to be in that fit or safety range, so that everywhere you get accepted, you will be like, okay, I can afford to go, right? Um, and then um, and then this is I mentioned this before, but this is really important. Again, is when you're applying, this is your college application stage. Make yourself as marketable and as desirable as possible. We've already talked about the fact that merit aid is based on how much the school wants you. And then so you're going to pay attention to the really trying to impress these schools with the full package, the grades, the sports, the clubs. Like there's things that you're doing that you may not even know are worth talking about. Think about that. Like, well, how can I make myself so that the schools really understand what a great student I am, or what a great asset I would be to their community. And here's another huge trick that most students don't consider necessarily is look for colleges that are off the beaten path from what the other colleges that everybody else in the high school is applying to. Because first of all, make them a little bit less competitive for you. Colleges can only have so many students from a given high school, but also they are always eager to find new students from high schools that they haven't yet had students from. So they're curious about your high school. So just think about that. Are there cool schools that nobody else is even thinking about that you might be a perfect fit for you? And then it's this idea of matchmaking. Apply to schools that are this best fit. Admission officers really see this, and then that will mean that you get accepted, and that will mean possibly that they make you a good offer. There really is a little bit of a love affair going on when they're reading through these files. And then another thing, and we have some resources on our website, and there's lots of resources everywhere on the internet on how to appeal for more aid. Once you get your aid offers, so you're going to apply to school. Some of the schools, many of the schools hopefully will accept you. And then in that acceptance, there's going to be, or shortly after, there's going to be an aid offer saying, okay, the school's going to cost you this much, but we're giving you this, 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 and this. And then there's a bottom line number. You got to read through those carefully, see if it's something you can afford. And then if it's not, there is the ability to appeal for more aid. You can certainly do it if there's anything that's happened in your family that the school doesn't know about. That's absolutely, you should reach out about that. It could be a job loss, a death, healthcare bills. The school should try to know your entire picture, right? But then you also have um, just something to understand is if you're applying to a lot of schools that are sort of actively competing with each other, and that's something, for example, out on Long Island, there's like 4 schools that actively compete for the same students, 4 privates, right? You have, Adelphi, Hofstra, St. John's, and there's one other. Well, Stony Brook's sort of in there, but it's, even though it's different. But so they will, if they're interested in you as a student, think that you're a good prospect, there's it's quite feasible that you could sort of say, I love you, but I really, I just need, I can't quite afford it. Could we up that offer? And quite frequently, when you're dealing with those privates, which they really are wanting to fill their seats and get an acceptance, get you in the door, you could get an extra 5,000 per year. So it's not a ton of extra money, but it is one of those things that there is some bargain and wiggle room if you are dealing with schools that are directly competing with each other. And then if there's a school that you're truly in love with, make the case. Just sort of like sort of show them what you're in, see if they can up it. They do have extra money. And then so last thing is before Q&A, or I'm going to get you through some of the resources I mentioned about the net price calculators. First of all, the New York State Hess Corporation has a lot of fantastic, useful stuff on their website that you're going to want to be aware of. It's all their grants and scholarships, their tuition assistance, their DREAM Act. There's events, which of course you've already found out about, and text alerts. So definitely go there. And then they have actually a lot of great programming there to be aware of. And then here, let's just real quick talk through. Oh, this is another. This is their financial aid award letter comparison tool, and I've used it. It's really easy. So once you get your financial aid letters, you can sort of compare them and make sure that you're comparing apples to apples, right? But back to this idea of like, what is my net price going to be? So you have your cost of attendance. The first thing you're going to think about is, am I going to get any federal aid, federal based aid? And how do you get that? You fill out the FAFSA, and every single person on this call should make sure they fill that out because it unlocks not only federal aid, but it unlocks your state aid here with TAP. That you can't get TAP without filling out the FAFSA. And then often the colleges use the FAFSA to determine how much need-based aid or author-based aid you'll get. So every single person should always fill out the FAFSA. And then this federal student aid estimator allows you, it's going to ask you a bunch of questions and it's going to give you a quick sense of how much federal aid you're likely to get. So that's like a very specific type of aid, right? And then Scholarship Course Card and some of these others, Big Future has a lot of the net price calculators are all like it actually does that for most of the colleges in America. So if you want to go to their net price calculator site, you don't have to go to every single website of every single college that you're interested in and find their net price calculator. Big Future is likely to have many of the colleges you're interested in. So you can plug the information into Big Future, and then it'll come back with the net prices for these various colleges. So that's like a one-stop shop. And then the college scorecard, which is a federal site, has a lot of the same kind of tools. But I would say if you're very serious about this, that the net price calculator on the college that you are applying to is going to be the most precise. They're going to ask they're going to ask questions that are important to their admissions office. And it is a mix of questions. It's obviously the finances of the family, but it's also about the student themselves, your grades, and some of these price calculators may ask other questions about the student. So just like the value of the student and the need of the family. That is what these individual net price calculators are trying to do on each given website. So, it's an evening to go to each school's website, but you know that the information is up to date, and you know that they're going to do their best job at giving you an honest answer. And so this is the school I work for, and it just they give you a little bit of stuff to like get you started. Like, here's what you got to gather, and then begin your net price calculator experience. So that's what every school, once again, required by federal law to have a net price calculator on there. Okay. So required to have cost of attendance, required to have a net price calculator. And that's what it looks like in my school. And so, yeah, that is it. And we have about 10 minutes for questions and answers, if there's any questions or answers.
I was talking
we have
to
lots of
myself.
questions in here.
We have a couple of questions about, do we have access to these slides? And I'm gonna leave that to you to answer.
Yes, absolutely. So you can up at the top of the chat, and I'm going to put it again. These are Google Slides, and what you can do is go to that, see the link very much at the top of the chat. If you click through, and then you can make a copy of that, and that's your copy, and you have it, and it'll be in your Google Slide world, if that makes sense to you. And I'm not sure, do we send out a recording and the deck as well?
We do, yes, we
That's
can
easier.
absolutely do that.
Easiest.
Yes, we will absolutely take care of that. I think we got another question. What type of strategies are there if it is a faith-based school that doesn't accept federal aid?
Don't accept federal aid. Well, that's interesting. Wow, I didn't know that. I guess it's whatever their own process is, and this is true of every single college that you're going to be working with. It's important to sort of see what they want from you. I mentioned two big forms. One is the FAFSA. Another very important one is TAP from the state. But a third form that many colleges may ask you to fill out is the CSS profile. Those are often the privates. And so they'll be asking you a lot of questions. So it may be that like the college that you're working with is using that, and they're not going to be offering any federal aid. But it's weird to me that would be something that they wouldn't accept. So if I were you, I would ask again and just say, it's not that you're not willing to accept federal aid. Is that true? And just double check that piece of information. And the last thing I would say is, in terms of 4 things that schools might ask of you, is that they may have their own forms too that they want you to fill out. So it's really try to be as methodical about this as possible. And that's another reason why I say students should only apply to 10 colleges, not 20, because it gets to be a lot of work to do all the financial aid work. So
I think that was the end of the questions. I mentioned this in the chat, but we have several different events coming up. Please check out the link in the chat. And I would also encourage all of the attendees tonight to sign up for HESC Text, which will alert you on any financial aid updates that you need to know.
So so you should just do one of these every night. And there's actually a lot of terrific podcasts out there. If you want, there's a lot you can learn. It's all about how much time that you want to put into this. And then, let the students do as much of this work as possible. I think that's another really important part of it. So, so that's great.
Okay, think I think that is it. And we're 4 minutes ahead of time, which is fantastic. So I want to thank everybody on this call for joining us this evening. Please keep Higher Education Services Corporation in your mind as you apply. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Kim. She has put her name in the chat, and
Yeah,
if
and
you
you'll see. Like the one thing I will say is just keep that name, keep the slides when you get them. There's gonna be moments where you're going through it gets confusing. In the fall, there's a lot of like you're like, and I am always happy to take questions, and so you can email me anytime you want to. So,
Great, Kim. Thank you so much.
all
This
right,
has been wonderful, and I'm sure you've helped lots of students and parents tonight. Thank you again, and all have a great night.
good luck, everybody. It's fun. It's worth it. All right.
Bye,
All right.
guys.
Take care. Take care, everyone.